Right, so we've gone over the basics, but let's give a bit more context to what we're doing. Always making sure that we get our body with the slope. You know, this is the same with any long shot, any chip, any pitch, right? We want it, if this is a bit of an upslope, we want to make sure that we are getting our shoulders aligned with the slope, okay? This is going to allow for the best entering and exiting of that club. If I keep my shoulders very flat, or let's say just down for argument's sake on an upslope, then naturally I'm going to come in with more shaft lean and it's going to be very hard for me not to dig, okay? Conversely, if I'm hitting off of a down slope and I have my shoulders too level, guess what happens? You bottom out too early because that arc is not aligned with the slope, okay? So that's very simple, but very important, all right? Again, off any of these lies, you're still going to want to consider the same setup that we did in the first video. Now, something contrary to the first video. If the sand is firm, let's say winter time in England, you're out golfing, really firm sand, okay? For some people this is a bit easier, for some people it isn't. Why is that? Because it depends on your technique. So all of this information is going to be dependent on what your current technique is, okay? And this is where a little online coaching is really going to help you, you know, whether it be with me or whoever else. Someone's got to see, you know, your current technique to be able to give the correct advice. This is where this video is not going to be any good to you if you don't understand your current technique and current issues and problems that you're trying to improve, okay? But of course, anything that needs improving is going to need practice and, like I say, the understanding. So let's say we have really firm sand. The difference from the first setup would be that I would want the handle to be more forward. Well, what does this do? It exposes, it puts the heel further forward. We may even have the handle even lower. The heel is the digging part of the club. So if we have the heel in the front, it's going to be the first thing that hits the ground. This is going to help us in that firmer, wet sand to dig into it. What else do we need to do? Well, again, depending on what we currently do, we may need to get a little more across the line and steeper, okay? Now that the heel is in front, if we swing a bit too in to out, we may shank it because the heel is more exposed, okay? So putting the heel forward, we would want to create a bit more of an out to in path so that the ball glides up the face and doesn't come into contact with the hosel or the heel too early. But also we want to hit probably a bit more, again, this out to in path is going to help us hit a bit more down into it to create a steeper angle of attack. That heel is going to dig and it's going to pop that ball out for us. We don't, I mean, I personally like to see the face still open because we want that loft. And this is the same that goes for plug bunker shots. This is exactly how I play it when it's wet or firm. Again, pressure always left, open the face, a little more out to in, and digging down, getting that handle nice and low at impact with an open face, okay, creates loft, but a steepness and a diggingness to get out of that sand. I'm sure you've seen when it's firm or you're in a plug lie, if you come in too shallow, you end up thinning it or sculling it or whatever because the club bounces, okay? So there's some other things there, other context. If you have any other questions, then let me know. Any particular types of shot, then let me know. One last thing, long bunker shots. Well, as I said to you earlier, we need speed. Maybe take a little bit of the openness away and maybe just take a longer club. Same thing, longer club. If it gets to a point where it's pitching, then of course, then, you know, we may need to look at something else. But for the most part, I'd use one of your specialty wedges. Hopefully you've got a lob wedge, a sand wedge or a gap wedge in one of these, and that isn't out of your current set. Because remember, really, golf clubs out of your normal set, depending on your handicap, depending on how casted the iron is not going to work very well in the sand. That's why you see people using and buying these other clubs. It's not for no reason. These clubs interact correctly around turf and sand, okay? So let me know if you have any other questions.